I think we'll go ahead and get started. We always want to try to be punctual, and let me just say thank you to all the members of the Board of Regents. Thank you to the Chancellor Christensen, Chancellor Lee, Chancellor Gold. Thank you for being here. Senator Ibaugh, Senator Merman, Senator Bostar, thank you for being here. Come on up. Today, from my view, today is a gigantic day. Regent Scheer, thank you. Today's a gigantic day for Nebraska. It's a gigantic day for kids. And I think I'm really proud to be here with my old colleagues on the Board of Regents. And I think that there's a couple things that we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about. There's not a shadow of a doubt, Nebraska's an incredibly special place because of the people in Nebraska. And I think that what's really become obvious and evident to me as I've been all over the state of Nebraska in the last 3 years is extraordinary, not jobs, but extraordinary careers for our kids. We've got to do a better job of bragging so all of our kids know, and then we have to do more to make sure that we keep our best and brightest here. I think part of that is business's responsibility, and yet there's not a shadow of a doubt. If our best and brightest go to school somewhere else, the chance of getting them back home really falls at a high rate. I've had extraordinary moments in the first 13 months being your governor, and one was being in the rotunda last summer, congratulating the top 1/4 percentile, the 31 students that scored perfect scores on their ACT tests. And the sobering math of that equation of 31 students is that 20 were going to other schools. And I obviously asked, guess what? Most want to be here, but they couldn't afford to because of our scholarship program. So I can't give enough kudos to the board and to President Kaborik and the chancellors for making this happen. I think it's a start. I think, I don't know exactly what the numbers, but I'm going to say roughly 800 kids of our best and brightest because they can go to other places for full tuition, full room and board, and a significant stipend that, we've got to get in the game and keep those kids here. I meet kids in the airport. Where do you go to school? Why? Well, because I scored a 33 and I couldn't afford to stay in Nebraska. We have to keep those kids, and this is a great first step. It's a great first step, and I think that the one thing we all agree on, and there's a lot of things we all agree on in Nebraska, but certainly it's all about our kids. It's all about our kids, and we never give up on a kid, whether it's kids in tough circumstances or making sure that we keep our best and our brightest here. So I can't tell you how excited I am. I think that this scholarship, and I can't thank the press enough for being here, this scholarship sends a message to all kids in Nebraska. There's no place better in the world to be a kid in Nebraska, and our best and our brightest are going to stay here because the grass is tallest and greenest on this side of the fence, and you are not going to afford not to come here to school. That's the message. Nebraska kids can't afford not to come to school here. This group of public servants are stepping up and making sure we can stop the brain drain and grow it. So I can't say congratulations enough to President Kaborik, the chancellors, the Board of Regents, really good stuff. So I think what I'll do is turn it over to President Kaborik. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
Jim. Thank you, Governor Pillen. It's a little bit surreal being in this chamber with all of you. As a kid from growing up in David City, the first to go, my family go to college, growing up probably less than 30 miles from Governor Pillen, never thought I'd have this chance. So Nebraska is an extraordinary place, and there's quite no place like it. If a kid from David City and a kid from Platte County can have the roles we do today. But So thank you for your partnership. I've known Governor Pillen for a long time as his service as the regent, and we're fortunate to have a governor who had deep connection to our university and values that a strong university is critical to having a competitive state. I also want to recognize the members of the board and thank you for your leadership and your courage to challenge the administration to be bold and aggressive on this new initiative and to not accept the status quo. And that's not what we're going to do. I also want to recognize friends from agriculture, business, education, philanthropy, and members of the legislature who are part of this effort. We are very proud to be standing here together to send a very simple message to Nebraska kids. We want you on Team Nebraska. A special introduction to our UNL student body president, Paul Peckus. Paul's a junior at UNL from Omaha, I believe majoring in special education. If you have no doubts about this generation of young people, spend a little time with Paul and his fellow student regents. They will reinvigorate your enthusiasm, and you'll know Nebraska's future is in good hands. But as the governor said, I've talked to too many kids, too many parents. Scholarships matter. We have to be competitive on scholarship to keep kids like Paul here in Nebraska. And unfortunately, we're letting too much of our homegrown talent get away. We need to do better. Nebraska needs us to do better. If we want Nebraska to compete at the highest levels, and I know we all do, we need to go after all of our five-star students, not just those on the athletic field. And I think today's announcement of the President's Scholarship is a first initial step to do that. It's pretty simple. If you're a Nebraska kid and you get a 36 perfect ACT score on your ACT, we guarantee you a full total cost of attendance scholarship at the University of Nebraska. Tuition, fees, room and board, and a $5,000 annual stipend to pursue whatever your dream might be. It's a pretty simple message. We want you in Nebraska. We want the University of Nebraska to be at the top of your list. And if you sign with us, we're going to go celebrate it, just like we celebrate our five-star athletes. Governor Pillen already mentioned kind of the numbers. About 20% of our perfect ACT scores attend the University of Nebraska. And candidly, I'm embarrassed by that. I'm embarrassed that we're getting out-competed each and every day for our own talent. Nobody at the university should be okay with those numbers. We have to compete harder and smarter. This scholarship hopefully will be one initial change to stop the brain drain, as the governor has challenged us all to do, and to keep our best and brightest from taking their talents elsewhere. And I'm excited that we're soon will be launching a fundraising campaign to expand that program to students with 33s or above. But I want to be clear, my message today goes beyond ACT scores. As a parent myself, with a good student, but struggled mightily with the ACT, I do not believe the ACT is the only indicator of a student's potential. And that's part of the reason we're maintaining our prestigious Regent Scholarship Program. We are reinvigorating our full commitment to our Nebraska Promise Program that provides free tuition to all kids from families that make $65,000 or less. And the message I have for all Nebraskans today, if you are willing to roll up your sleeves, you're willing to work hard, do things the Nebraska way, the University of Nebraska is going to do everything we can to give you the opportunity to become the very best version of yourself so that your dreams can start right here in Nebraska, so you can start your career in Nebraska and start your family right here. This is my 36th day on the job, and I have to be candid. I could not have predicted the number of phone calls I received from parents and students saying they had good students but have not heard from us. And quite frankly, we at the university, starting with me, are not getting the job when it comes to going after our own kids. That's frustrating to me because as a kid from Butler County who didn't know if college was possible, I believe every Nebraska kid is worth our time and effort. Every Nebraska kid is worth our time and effort. And I told our teams, I told our chancellors, our highest priority needs to be reconnecting with Nebraskans and letting them know there is a place for them here at the university. We want them here, we are committed to them here, and we're going to work hard each and every day to get there. So in terms of student recruiting, that means it's time for us to think differently. We need to get out of our offices and come see Nebraskans, whether that's in David City, Columbus, Beatrice, Norfolk, Beaver City, Amherst, Lincoln, Omaha, and everywhere in between. We need to come out and see you and let you know we want you and there's opportunities here. This is about renewing our passion for Nebraska and making sure each and every kid knows about that. Now I know not every kid will come to Nebraska. I accept that. As a parent, as a coach of my son's sports teams, I always told my kids, it's not about whether we win or lose, but whether we reach our fullest potential each and every day. And so a loss only disappoints me if we don't compete to our fullest potential, and that's how I want our chancellors and our team to view student recruiting. There will be kids that leave for a number of reasons, but I don't ever want it to be because we didn't compete as hard as we could to get them to stay. Because again, every Nebraska kid is worth our time and effort. Again, I want to thank Governor Pillen for the opportunity, for the partnership. I want to thank our board and our chancellors for being here today. I'm super excited. I never felt that the future of the university had never been brighter. Time to go compete. Let's go. Thank you, Governor Pillen.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you. Well, we're going to have fun with this, Chris, so my expectation, we're going to get 100%. So if you're a student and you scored a perfect ACT, we're going to have a home visit. We're going to get you to Nebraska. Home visits, how would that be? And I'll do some with you, President Clare. So Tim Clare, Chair of the Board of Regents.
Thanks, Governor. Well, good afternoon, and thank you for coming to this important announcement for the University of Nebraska, but also for our state. And let me begin by thanking the governor for hosting. We certainly appreciate your leadership and your partnership and your friendship. I also want to thank my fellow board members as well as business leaders, donors, elected leaders, and Nebraskans that are in attendance today, and those that are listening to this announcement. Growing Nebraska is a total team effort, and we are thrilled that so many people are excited about this vision to keep Nebraska kids here. I want to thank President Kaborik for his decisive leadership. This is a big day for Nebraska. As a board, we've set a big goal for the University of Nebraska to compete. You hear this word used all the time. We don't want to get out-competed, and that starts with making sure that our homegrown talent doesn't get away. As the governor and President Kaborik have said, too many high-caliber Nebraska students are getting enticed by other opportunities. And as a lifelong Nebraskan, an alum of the University of Nebraska, and a father to 5 kids who all went to the University of Nebraska, that's not good enough for me. We can settle for the status quo, or we can do better and compete. Compete for every student. I want every Nebraska student and parent to hear from us that we want them at the University of Nebraska. I want them to not only hear from us, but I want us to establish a relationship with them and their parents so that they know that the University of Nebraska is the right institution for them. Our workforce is depending on us to do better. This is an issue I'm passionate about, and I hear it every time I talk to Nebraska business leaders throughout the state. We need more workforce. And when we keep Nebraska students in Nebraska, that means they're more likely to do an internship here, more likely to get a job here, more likely to start their careers here, and more likely to grow their family and put down roots right here in Nebraska. That's a win all the way around. And when we say we want Nebraska to compete, this is exactly what we mean. So I couldn't be more excited about the positive momentum and all the great things happening at the university and across our state. That's a credit to people that are in this room and those that are listening. We are full steam ahead with our plans to grow and to compete. So Governor, thank you again. President Kaborik, thank you. All of our partners, thank you for joining in this effort. And now I'm going to turn the podium back over to Governor Pillen.
Thanks, Tim. And our last will be Vice Chair Rob Schaefer from Beatrice. Rob, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Thank you, Governor. See you.
First of all, thank you again to the governor and to the chancellors and the other board members, but I'd like to extend that thank you out to the members of the legislature and our friends with the press. So thank you for taking time out of your busy days to be here and share this great news today about Nebraska. I'm not sure if perhaps we've taken it for granted that Nebraska kids will apply to the university, or if maybe we've lost our way a little bit. But personally connecting with Nebraskans is something that we all need to be doing a better job of. Regardless, it's time for us to apply our Nebraska work ethic and work harder at recruiting all Nebraska kids in every community. No excuses, we just need to work harder and do better, and we will. I love what I'm hearing from Chris Kaborik, our current president, in terms of reconnecting with Nebraskans. I think we have a great opportunity to get back to our roots and to connect our values and remind ourselves that the mission of the university is to serve our state and all Nebraskans. As a father of 2 young daughters, I sure hope that someday they will choose Nebraska when the time comes. However, I know that they'll have options as well, and that we cannot take them, as well as any other student, for granted. We need to do everything that we can to make sure that we're at the top of the list when all Nebraska young people make that critical decision as far as where they want to go to further their education. My message is that it's early in the year and we're just getting started, and we're going to move Nebraska forward. This is a big step forward, and we are excited to work with Governor Pillen, our business and ag partners, our donors, and our elected officials to keep the momentum going. Once again, I'd like to say thank you to the governor. I think it's just critical that we keep this thing moving forward. And at the end of the day, I think it really comes down to just 4 simple truths and 4 simple words. We need to recruit the best talent in Nebraska. We need to retain that talent. We need to reward them for their efforts. And at the end of the day, we hope that they retire here as Nebraskans. Thank you.
Maybe I've just got a couple comments to finish up with. Number one, I go through just extraordinary moments as your governor. This morning, I had the privilege to speak to 350 students at Boys Town. And these are kids that have had some tough draws. Half of the 350 kids are Nebraska kids. And I got to shake a lot of those kids' hands, and you know what? I bet the farm on those kids. And I think it's really, really important that all of us commit across the board that we never, ever give up on a kid. And here's what's really awesome about Nebraska kids. If we do surveys, which the Nebraska Community Foundation has done, is surveying our kids across Nebraska. Never before in the history of Nebraska, 9 out of 10 of our kids, guess where they want to live? They want to live where they grew up. They want to live near family. And guess what the best thing that we have in Nebraska that we take for granted, right, is our safety. This is one of the safest places in the world to live. And now what's really, really important is that we can all recognize that it's part of business, farmers, and ranchers' responsibilities to do business differently. And we have to do business differently as a university, because in the end, it's a great, great time to be a kid, because every kid can be lifted up by business, be paid right out of high school and be sent to trade schools so that we have certified welders, plumbers, electricians. Make sure that the best and brightest, that we have the philanthropy and we partner so that no kid cannot afford to go to school here. That is the future. We have to do business differently. And the good news is we're taking steps, and now the big thing is to get to work so we can really scale it quickly, because Nebraska's depending on us. The future is really bright, and in the end, I get overwhelmed so many times in this job, in this opportunity, in this privilege, and you look in this chamber, and you just look up and look at the murals and the heritage. We're an extraordinary people with an incredible future, and I think it's really a great day for Nebraska, and I can't thank everybody here enough. The future is bright indeed. We take some questions from the press. Chris?
Is this scholarship, the President's Scholarship, is it being funded by university dollars, or how do you expect to pay for that?
Yes, this will be funded from private donations. So we can't thank our philanthropy, our donors, our alumni enough, because this initial step will be funded entirely with private donations.
Should this be something that the state is investing?
I hope we are wildly successful with this, and that resources are a problem, and then we can talk to the state about option. But right now, we're going to take this step. We're going to do everything we can within the university to get this going.
How does this differ from a Regent Scholarship right now? I mean, what does a Regent Scholarship pay for?
A Regent Scholarship covers tuition. And the big difference is this will be an endowed scholarship. So if I could put my other hat on, my CFO hat on, Regent scholarships are tuition waivers right now. So we are just not collecting the tuition on those best and the brightest students. And that's really important to get them here. But from the changing landscape of higher education, we have to find a sustainable business model to make sure, as Governor Pillen said, in the Regent, that all Nebraska students have an opportunity to afford university education. And so these will all be endowed scholarships, which will fund the tuition, the room and board, and the $5,000 stipend for these students.
And do you know how much money you already have in this endowed scholarship?
To start this off, we'll start off with a $5 million endowment.
$5 million?
$5 million private funding.
Can you say who the donors were, how many donors you had?
Pardon me?
How many donors did you have?
This is a collection of private philanthropy that the university had. So it literally takes a village to do this. So I'm going to say all Nebraskans are participating in this.
How competitive is the $5,000 stipend compared to what universities and other states are?
So the question was, how competitive is the $5,000 stipend compared to other institutions? We've looked at a lot of institutions across the Big Ten, across UNK, UNO peers, and it varies widely. But we believe this will be one of the most competitive, fully funded scholarships. And again, if we take a page out of athletics, if you're an athlete that's on scholarship, you get roughly a $5,900 stipend, and so that's kind of ballpark of where we came up with the $5,000 stipend for our five-star academics as well.
Are you anticipating to start this fall for these students?
Yes.
So in 4 years, when those students will graduate by the state from the 4-year graduation, what would you want Nebraska to look like for them in 4 years?
So I'm with Governor Pillen. I want all 100% of those perfect ATTs to at least consider the University of Nebraska. And like I said, only 20% of them are right now. So, even if we can only get one, it's a win, because who knows? That might be the next great farmer or rancher or cancer doctor researcher or nuclear physicist or a great business owner. Who knows what the stories, what those dreams of that student might be. So if we only get one student, it's been a success in my opinion.
Andrew?
Governor, do you just see this as just in-state kids, or what if you have a kid in Iowa? Why don't you go on the offensive and start stealing some other kids.
Yeah, well, I love that attitude, Andrew. That's really good. But the question was, can we steal kids from Iowa? I think the first step is starting at Nebraska. We need to keep, and on a serious note, when we talk about the 31 kids, a very, very realistic goal is 80%. I believe in the 80-20 rule. We have to keep 80% of the best and brightest here. Why can't we reach for every kid? If we recruit these kids and make sure these kids know, I mean, we really do. Everywhere you go in the state of Nebraska, what do you love? It's the people. Nobody has the magic of the people in Nebraska. I've never met a human being in my life that doesn't want to be around great people. We have to sell the entire package to keep our kids here, but it starts with competitive scholarship grant. This scholarship will keep our kids here. They can't, no longer, why are you going? Because I can't afford to go to school here. It closes a gap, and now we got to spread it to the 35s and the 34s and the 33s and the 32s.
And I see Senator Lowstar here. I mean, he's got a bill that would help. Does he have a bill that might help fund, this fund like this that be sustainable for in the future? Where you put in some state money and match private money. I mean, do you support something like that? Putting in a little state money to match?
Yeah. Well, I think that here's what I know without a shadow of a doubt. When Nebraskans know there's a need, they step up 100% of the time. This helps showcase the extraordinary need to make sure we keep our best and brightest. We got to stop pointing fingers and solve the problem and make sure that we, business, farmers, and ranchers, and we educators together solve the problem. And we have to keep our best and brightest here. We have to make sure we protect our kids. We need to make sure we lift a ton of kids. I mean, the hardcore reality is half of our kids graduating from high schools are not getting further skill set development. We have to fix that and solve that so that we have thriving middle class communities across our state. Chris.
Specialized programs that maybe aren't available at the University of Nebraska. What percentage of that are people that are saying, hey, you needed to do a little bit more just to get my kids to believe in going to university?
Yeah, let me see if I can. The question is of the parents and the students we talk to, how much is scholarships a part versus academic programs and other opportunities available to the university. First of all, I just want to reiterate or clarify that the President's Scholarship is available to all of the University of Nebraska, so any of our campuses. So and as you know, we have a wide variety of outstanding academic programs across the state for our students to choose to. So anecdotally, the conversations I've had with parents and students are mostly around the relationship. We haven't heard from you. Why haven't we heard from you? We're hearing from the University of Kansas. We're hearing from Northwest Missouri State. We're hearing from the University of Iowa, but we yet have heard from any of our campuses. Now, our campuses are working hard each and every day, so this is not a criticism per se of them. But we have to do better. We have to hold all of ourselves accountable to do better, because as Governor Pillen said, the future of our state is our kids. And if the most easy kid to recruit, the one that right here, 90% of them want to stay and live here. So we are going to reconnect with Nebraska kids to let them know we want them, to let them know the opportunity that's available to them here, and really make that our North Star going forward.
I'd be remiss if I didn't add to it, Chris, without a shadow of a doubt. I've met gobs of kids. Where are you going to school? I'm going to X, I'm going to Y, I'm going to Z. Well, I follow up, why? I couldn't afford to stay home. As much as I wanted to, I couldn't afford to. So we're going to get that one off the chart. And then all of us have to keep selling all the extraordinary things that we appreciate about the state of Nebraska. Make sure our kids know that. And then lastly, we all take time to make sure our kids know we need them at home. We need them to stay in Nebraska and not take our kids for granted. Anything else? All right, well, one last big shout out. Thank you to everybody. Thanks for everybody's presence. Thanks for what everybody's doing, and let's roll up our sleeves and make it happen. Thank you all.